Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Championship Leadership Podcast. Excited we got Logan Shinholser here with us today out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I was just had the opportunity to be on his podcast as well here just actually maybe a few weeks ago, a week ago or so. And so I'm excited for him to come on back here, return the favor, and get into what's going on for Logan. So thanks, man. Thanks for being here.
Dude, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. First question I love to ask to kind of just kick the conversation off is championship leadership is the name of the podcast. So, what does that mean to you? What comes to mind when you hear championship leadership?
Championship leadership to me is the ability to lead when the wind is no longer at your back. Yeah. So everybody is a good leader in good times, but as soon as everything hits the fan, I think everybody learns what kind of leader they really are. So the ability to have stuff pop up and still be able to lead in the right manner, that's, to me, that's championship leadership.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. I like that. When the wind's not at your back, that's good. I haven't heard that one before. So what's, what are some ways, what are some times, some experiences that you've had where that wind hasn't been at your back and you've had to continue to move forward?
So, like, for me, for example,
maybe it's been right in your face, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I had a pretty good, successful childhood. Like, I got a scholarship to college for athletics, graduated with an engineering degree. Like, on paper, it's like, okay, this dude's got it. And then my whole goal was to go into the Navy, become a SEAL. And man, there's just a whole other level of mental fortitude that you have to go through when you're in it. So during BUD/S, I remember having like a stomach flu, which in the grand scheme of things of what the normal SEAL goes through in life, like BUD/S sucks. They all can agree with that.
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, I was, captain of the sports teams, was an SGA in college, and all that stuff in my mind, it just came easy. But as soon as I got a stomach flu and I had to lead guys while getting the crap kicked out of me all day long, I learned what kind of leader I was, and it wasn't what I thought I was. It was a very humbling experience, and I really just realized I wasn't as invincible as I thought I was from the previous 23 years of life. So I ended up quitting that during Hell Week, and it just I was like, okay, now what? So it really put me on my butt, and I realized that when you are facing adversity and the situation isn't perfect for you, how do you act? And I still think back to where I was, where my boat crew was yelling at me like, "Sir, what do we do?" And I'm like, I don't know. And I just kind of crumbled.
Yeah. So did you remain in the Navy after that?
I tried to. After that, what they do is they go, okay, look, you didn't make it. And my class was in May or June. May, I think it was end of May. Well, the government does their fiscal year, and I believe it's October is when their fiscal year is. And at that point, they're like, okay, what do you want to do? You want to stay in or you want to get out? And I was like, I want to stay in. And they're like, okay. Actually, all the slots for everything are pretty much filled up. So you can either go try to be an officer on a ship, or effectively you get out. And I was like, well, I don't want to go be on a ship. I like to try other things. So I applied for a few other communities within the Navy and got told no from every single one of those. And they just said, you get out in November. And I was like, okay. So I effectively got laid off from the Navy.
Wow. So tell the listeners a little bit more about, kind of your path from there to where you're at today and what you're up to today, to give them a little bit more of what you're doing and who you are.
Yeah, sure. So I got out of that. That was November 2016, I believe. And then from there, I was in San Diego, moved up to San Francisco. I knew at some point in life, I'm going to have to use sales skills. So took an inside sales job. It was okay. It taught me a lot about rejection. At the end of the day, if you get rejected, people hang up. I mean, I got hung up on yesterday in a sales call. So it taught me back then that they're not hanging up on Logan, the person. They're hanging up on whatever it was that I was selling or how I was offering it to them. So it taught me that it's okay to get hung up on, and that's just part of life. So I did sales for 8-9 months and then said, okay, I think I've got as much as I want to get. Let me start my own company. So 3 years later, I run a marketing agency for residential contractors. So if you're a remodeler, landscaper, painter, and you have a good operation offline, but you're not generating what you should be generating online, we help facilitate that, get everything going.
Awesome. So how did that happen? Like, where'd that come from?
My dad is a contractor.
Okay.
He builds koi ponds up in Maryland, and he had a marketing company some odd years ago, and it just wasn't working. So he was like, "Hey, dude, I'm spending all this money on marketing, and it's producing me nothing. So if I'm going to waste a bunch of money on marketing, I might as well waste it on my own son." And I was like, "Okay, well, I
Right.
appreciate
Yeah.
I appreciate that." I was like, "I know nothing about this stuff," and he was like, "You
Yeah.
know what? I believe in you. I think you can figure it out." And I ended up just figuring it out. So that was really the entryway into it all. And then I found out that I actually love all the marketing stuff, because it's effectively just how to persuade people to do what you want them to do, how to lead them online by
Right.
your words, by your actions, by everything that you do. So to me, it's cool. Like I actually like it a lot, but I love the idea of like growing a business just as much. Like that's more fun to me, of something that I'm responsible for growing, than the actual marketing side of it. So it's been a cool path. It's been a cool journey working with contractors. It's like a very raw field. There's no
Yeah.
sugarcoating stuff. If they don't like
Yeah.
something, they let you know, which
Totally.
I can completely align myself with. So
Yeah.
it's nice. It's a good relationship.
That is nice. Cause I mean, there are a lot of people in our world that just beat around the freaking bush. Right. And can't, that won't tell you where they stand. And
Yeah.
although the construction field could probably use a little tact, at least you do know where they stand, right?
that there's no
Yeah.
miscommunication.
Yeah.
There is, and generally, like who I work with is they're at least doing $1 million a year. They
Yeah.
typically have a good operation, so they understand how to lead. They know that they can't just walk into work and yell at everyone, because
Yeah.
you can't keep employees like that. So I've kind of stepped away from those. Like the dude that hung up on me the other day, like typically my ideal client they would just go, "You know what, Logan, I appreciate it, man, but like, this is just not the time," or whatever
Yeah.
it is, whatever the
Yeah.
objection is. But just the fact that it's like, "You know what, now I'm out," and they just hang up, and it's like, all right, cool. So
Yeah.
there is still some of that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, by getting hung up on, like, there's no miscommunication on if he wants to move forward or not. So
Right.
I've got it covered.
Very clear. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
exactly. So
So,
yeah.
we'll talk, let's, who are some of the championship leaders, coaches, mentors that have impacted you in your world? And, it's always more about like, what is it about these people? What are the characteristics that really stand out to you inside of their leadership? And maybe is kind of some of the things that you've taken to mold who you are as a leader.
So for me, the people that had the biggest impact, I think most guys, like their dad. Like my dad has been
Yeah.
huge. I mean, I still work with him pretty closely. He's been instrumental, because he ran a very large pool company that he started 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And then he sold it when I was like, well, I guess it'd probably be 40 years ago, but he sold it when I was like 5. So I don't remember those days of him running that, but he was like, "Logan, I was just a dick. I was just jerk to everybody. I yelled at everybody. I would let the guys take lunch at 4 or 5 PM. He was like,
Wow.
and it was just tough. He's like, because I didn't know. He was like, I was in the zone. We would be working there. We'd start the job at 7 a.m. And then it's 5 o'clock, and people were like, "Steve, can we take lunch?" And he's like, "What do you want lunch for?" And we're like, "It's dinner time." So
Yeah.
so I never got to experience any of that side of him. And then when he started this pond company in 2001, he was a completely different leader. He was very hands off. He was very much, "Hey guys, this is the end goal. This is what we want to achieve. I'm going to give you more autonomy than you're probably used to." So that was his parenting style as well with us, was, "Logan, you got a scholarship to college. It's your senior year. I know you're saying you're going to a friend's house tonight, but just remember, you got a scholarship. Don't mess it up." So it was between him, my dive coach in college, just the people that really just said, "Look, man, here's the end goal. Here are the parameters. I'm going to let you do you." Those have been the best leaders in my life, because they let you own it. And now the responsibility is on me to not do something dumb. They're not
Mm-hmm.
micromanaging me. They're not telling me what I need to do or what I shouldn't do. It's straight up, this is the end goal. I'm going to let you do it. And with some people, it doesn't work, right? I found that, some people with that autonomy, they just kind of sat back and said, all right, cool, I'm just going to hang. But
Right.
for me, it was almost like, all right, cool, now I'm going to own it. And that just springboarded me to where I am now. So it was really the fact that they gave me a rope to hang myself effectively and said, here you go. So that was the most impactful way that I got led. And then that's how I try to lead my team as well, where it's very much like, here's the goal. And what I realized is, even when all this pandemic started, I was like, you know what? I can't think about all this stuff going on. And I actually started taking like Saturdays off during the pandemic, which is the first time I've done that in 3 years. So I usually just would work all weekends and everything.
Right.
And the more that I step out and the more that they take on, the more the company grows.
Yeah.
So
Crazy, right?
micromanaging is not the best way to do stuff.
Yeah. And it's so hard. And you don't know that until you actually do it. And so many people just are so scared at the idea of doing that because they don't think it's going to work, or because they think they need to do everything. They think they need to micromanage. And then you see it flourish when you do, and you're like, holy cows, why did I not do that sooner? So the fact that you were able to realize, because you're still a young guy, to realize that so young is awesome, right?
It's fortunate, because I see you wearing a First Form shirt, and I remember listening to Andy Frisella on a podcast, and he was like, you effectively need to spend a bunch of money for your people to fail on their own, so they understand how it works. And like, that's what I'm like, okay, let me try that. And it's been very effective and very helpful.
Yeah. And that, which is also another, we talk about championship leaders that have impacted you. It's not always the people that directly you have a relationship with. It could be a guy like Andy Frisella or a Tony Robbins that you just watch their videos on YouTube or whatever, right? I mean, there's so many ways, especially today. There's no excuse for you to not have a mentor or a coach, really, when you look at it from that perspective of like, man, there's so many powerful people that putting out amazing content for free that you could find for a lifetime, for lifetimes. So
it's a lot, because I'm a big fan of, you're the average of the 5 people you associate with. And for me, it's like, I mean, half the people that I put in my top 5 don't even know I exist.
Right.
But because I consume so much of them, and I almost like take on that mentality, or I try to, and it rubs off on me, it helps. So it's crazy that, like, and some people might disagree that, like, well, that doesn't really count. If you listen to Andy Frisella to say every day, I mean, you probably interact more with him, even though it's a very one-sided conversation, than a lot. I mean, I would talk more to Andy Frisella, or he talks more to me than my girlfriend. So it's like, it just shows you where you really put the energy and who's really in your top 5. So I mean, it's out there. If you want to capitalize on it, you can do it. But I've found that the more hands-off I've become, the more hands-off people are with me, the easier it is to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's come back a little bit to Navy SEAL Hell Week, if you don't mind, because
Sure.
I've talked to you a few times, and it feels like it was definitely a big moment and experience for you. I think there could be many people that, whether it's for you in Hell Week or something else, right? We all have kind of those moments where we can either really, really learn from this experience that did not go the way we wanted it to, and humble ourselves and learn from it. Or a lot of people, unfortunately, sometimes they take those experiences that just didn't go their way and it cripples them for life. They just, like, they can never move forward from it. They kind of it becomes their identity.
Right.
And I don't think that's definitely not what I'm hearing from you. But it was a pivotal moment in your life up to this point. There'll be many more, of course, but it's all on how you decided to take that experience and help you thrust you forward. So could you talk a little bit more about that and maybe some of the lessons that you have learned and continue to apply into your daily life?
Yeah. So I will say it's still part of my identity. It's still this chip on my shoulder, because nobody likes to fail.
Yeah.
And even worse, nobody likes to fail in front of everyone else.
Right.
And it was no secret that this is what I was doing. It was very obvious. Like, I wasn't like posting about it on Facebook, but like, people around me knew.
Yeah.
And then when I quit, that was who I became. And I had a lot of good friends that reached out and said, look, man, just so you know, this is not you. Like, this is not who you are. This doesn't define you. You know, this is just literally like a few months of your entire life. This is not who you are. But even still 3 years later, like, that's a huge reason why I push so hard, because the last big thing I went out for, I failed at, and I'm not going to let round 2 happen again in the same manner. So I understand what happened. You know, I understand why I quit. I understand why I didn't make it and why I wasn't cut out for it. But what I've really taken away from all that is the good times don't happen without the bad. Like,
Yeah.
you can't really appreciate, you know, being 20 years old, you can eat whatever the hell you want and you have this fast metabolism if you don't experience, like, you know, because like, you look at your dad, I'm like, dude, like, Dad, just stop eat. Like, why are you not ripped? Like, just work out, you know. But like, because you need the bad times or the hard stuff to really appreciate the good stuff. So for me, it was very beneficial that I'm not the shit at everything I do. I'm not untouchable, and I need to figure out somehow, how do I use this momentum, you know, this anger, this frustration, this sadness, this everything, this failure, and how do I change that? So that's effectively what I've been trying to do. It still is with me. I still think back to it, not every day, but pretty close to every day. And I remember coming away from it, probably about once a week, I would have a dream where somehow in the dream, they're like, oh, Shinholser, we messed up, man. We're actually going to let you get back in. And I remember at first being like, you're going to let me back in and try again? Like, thank God. Like, thank you so much. Like, the second time won't be the same. And then as time goes on, you know, fast forward a few years, if I had that same dream, they're like, all right, you're back in. I'm like, no. I've got a marketing company now. Like, I really appreciate it. So like, subconsciously, I'm like getting over it in my mind. But clearly the fact that I still dream about it it still sticks with me. And it's still really, unfortunately, it's still part of my identity, but I'm trying to like learn how to understand and go, okay, that just wasn't meant for you. That wasn't your jam, Logan. I think you're in your element now. Let's move on. But it is hard just to like completely drop it and, you know, do a 180 and just go, all right, well, that's cool. Let me move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I don't think you should drop it and just completely move on, right? Like I said, I mean, if you can find the gifts in it, what did it teach you? What are some things that you can now take and give to other people and help them and lift them up from that experience? There's so many people that don't have the balls, let's be real, to even go through buds and just even have the courage to take a chance and see if they have what it takes. And so yeah, there's absolutely, I mean, you did it, you went through it and it didn't work out. You know, there's a lot of shit that doesn't work out in life. Like, there just is.
Tons of it.
And it's all right. So like, you learn from it and just go dominate the next thing. And that's what you're doing right now. So I appreciate you sharing that, being raw.
Yeah, man. No, it was good. Like, I wouldn't change it. Because it was a tough time, and everybody's got their own lows. You know, it's all relative in my mind. You know, my low of like, you know, not making it through buds. Like, to me, I remember, you know, I mean, shoot, like, people, sounds sad, but people commit suicide after they don't make it, after they quit. Like, the dude in my class, in the class right before me, went up to like the 30th floor of the height and jumped off. So then as soon as we quit, they then put you on suicide watch.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that real? Like, you really want to quit? Like, is that like, you want to die because of that? And then you look at somebody else who's like, just got, you know, messed up at a young age, and they've just been in the system for 80 years. And it's all relative. So everybody's low is this, and you feel the same emotion, the same sadness, the same like helplessness. So I've kind of learned that with leading people when they're like, I'm just having a terrible day. Like, I got a flat tire on the way to work. And I'm like, really? Like, are you like, call an Uber, like, suck it up. But then I kind of realized, like, okay, maybe this is like the low point of their whole life and everything else is good. So let me at least be empathetic towards their pain and try to figure out what's going on. So that's been a huge help for me to understand that my low, even though it's a different low than somebody else, it's all relative.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Everyone's rock bottom is different. Right. And a lot of people's, you know, I'm not saying that's your rock bottom, but I'm just saying, you know, people have a rock bottom, and you know, as a coach, I'm telling people, like, don't wait until your rock bottom is just like total disaster, almost to the point where you can't recover from it. Like, you can declare your rock bottom right here, right now, and then like start to rise up and out of that. It's up to you. Don't continue down this just destructive path to the point where you get to a spot where you just can't, you got so much destruction in your path that you can't recover from it. So yeah, absolutely. Everybody's quote unquote rock bottom or hardest moment is it's all relative, like you said.
Yeah.
What's the vision, the path, championship leadership, great championship leaders. I'm a big football guy. So, I think of someone like a Bill Belichick or Nick Saban that, just that I'm not an Alabama fan. I'm not a Patriots fan by any means. But I can respect just the level that they've led at and in at, the highest level of college football, the highest level of course, the NFL football in the world. And the fact that they're competing against the best of the best in the world, and they continue to stay ahead of everyone and continue to show up time after time, almost every year to the big game. The fact that, they have to have incredible vision. As you get older, a lot of people aren't able to change and adapt with the times, and they clearly have been able to. So they have this incredible vision, but also just this amazing courage to continue to do things unorthodox that others aren't willing to do or can't see. Mm-hmm. So what's the vision for you and the impact that you want to make? Maybe even, let's say, short term, even just 5 years from now, on the path that you're on.
So first of all, I love Belichick's whole do your job, right? Mm-hmm. That was something that I never really quite understood what he meant by that until I started looking more into it. And I realized he's saying, just don't do more, don't do less, just do exactly what's asked out of you. And I realized the ability to have a team, because I work with a lot of small business owners, and a lot of small business owners, I realized the expectations aren't set of what you want people to do. So when Belichick goes, do your job, everybody knows exactly what is asked of them. And there's no miscommunication, because nobody will ever live up to the that are never set. So that's how I'm trying to effectively run my company, is that everybody's got a position, and it's really, and it sounds harsh, but it's process over people, right? This next man up mentality of stuff is dialed in. Yeah. So if somebody, God forbid, gets COVID, what do? Well, we just next man up, next person steps in, and they can fulfill that role, because that's the machine. That's really like company-wise what I'm trying to build, where it's like, it's straight up, it's understood. This is what you do. This is how you do it. Here are your constraints. You got your autonomy to make sure that this happens, but here's the end goal. And everybody's got their own little silo of what exactly they do. So I love, I haven't looked as much into Nick Saban as I had Belichick, but like losing Brady, Gronk's already out. I don't think they're going to go 3-13 this year. Belichick just has a way of making it happen.
And they just picked up Cam Newton. So, I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, and those two guys are completely different quarterbacks. I mean, one runs like a 7-second 40 and the other one doesn't, so it's like completely different schemes, but Belichick, you don't win 6 Super Bowls by just winging it and relying on a quarterback. I mean, Peyton Manning is a great quarterback, but so the whole vision of what I'm trying to build is I'm trying to build something it's repeatable. It's easy. It's straightforward. Business-wise, I'm really trying to build, like, the reason that people love Apple is it's because you know exactly what you're going to get. It's super easy to use. Everything. I mean, you pop your AirPods in and they connect right to your computer. Like, it's done. Like, it's easy. Yeah. And then it's simple. Like, that's the big thing. So that's exactly what I'm trying to build for the company, where it's straightforward, it's simple. You know exactly what you're going to get, because at that point, it's much easier to sell this. It's much easier to grow this thing if there's no miscommunication. So business-wise, I try to help as many contractors as I can in a very straightforward, super simplistic fashion, because a lot of stuff goes wrong when we overcomplicate things. So I'm trying to do the opposite and make it nice and easy.
Yeah, love it. What's as we kind of come up towards the end here, I want to respect your time, but one last question, really. What is, if there are 1 or 2 things that you could share with the listeners that if they were to implement today, they would help move their life forward today, what would those be?
Communicate. I remember I had a good conversation. Like I was having problems with my girlfriend. Like we lived together. And we've lived together for a while. So we're effectively like married, but you
Yeah.
know, and I remember talking to somebody else about it.
She gonna listen to this?
No, she would respect it because I had this
Yeah.
exact conversation with her,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
remember talking to him, and he was like, and I was like, yeah, this is like I get mad about this and this and this, and he's like, well, what does she say when you bring it up to her? And I was like, well, I haven't. He's like, how does she know how to act if you don't tell her what's really going on? And that's when I
Mhm.
realized, how can anybody actually know how to react or lead or do whatever it is if you never tell them what's going on? So the biggest thing that I will say is take away with you is, if little stuff bugs you here and there, don't let it bubble up for months, because then you're going to be like me, where if she leaves a dish in the sink and I'm like freaking out about that, she's like, this
She has no
guy's
clue.
nuts. But in reality,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
2 months of stuff built up over
Right.
time. And this is, what snaps. So by just having an open line of communication, it's called walking in truth, meaning just whatever you do, just be open about it. It really helps everything. And from a leadership perspective, the more open I've been with the team and about what's really going on behind the scenes, the more that they respect it, the harder they work, and the better the overall product.
Yeah, I love it. Beautiful. Thank you. What are some ways that we can check you out? What's going on for you? I know you get your podcast, so let us know where we can find that. And
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Easiest way to get me is if you head over to contractorgrowthnetwork.com. There's a podcast, you can hit the subscribe button, or if you leave there, you're going to get served Facebook ad after Facebook ad. So I'll be
Perfect.
stalking
Beautiful.
you. So
It's got the
Contractor
targeting
Growth
set
Network.
up.
Yeah, dude, it's straightforward. So if you just go there one time, it's game over. You're going to
Yep.
end up buying something. So you have contractorgrowthnetwork.com.
I would expect nothing less from a marketer. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, that's good. Appreciate you being here, man. Thank you, Logan. It's been great.
Cool. Thank you.